DTS, DTS, DTS.
Hello everyone, it is Briana, straight from the editing cave, the day after we recorded all of this footage. So we recorded way more footage than we expected, and I liked all of it on the edit. So instead of breaking it up and give you small tidbits, we decided to break up the episodes into different reaction videos. So this is episodes 9 and 10. If you missed us reacting to any prior episodes, I have linked the playlist in one of these two corners. And so definitely go check those out. Also, make sure you subscribe, turn on notifications for all future content we do related to F1. So, overall disclaimer, we are both the type of people who wake up at the crack of dawn, 3 a.m. for me for Bahrain, to watch Free Practice 1, which is not a points-giving session. So, we do know all the details about what happened in the season last year because we followed it obsessively. And so a lot of what Drive to Survive is simplifying storylines and making them accessible for new people to come in, which is why it's so cool. And we're mostly just excited to get behind the scenes of all our favorite F1 personalities, but we are coming at it from that perspective. But big F1 fans and love Drive to Survive. So gonna get mostly positive excitement and panic from us over here as we see all the behind the scenes.
Yes, we are here for the drama. Parker's here for this chew stick. He wanted to participate in the conversation, so we're having him distracted. But yes, we're here for the drama. This is a Netflix show. It's for entertainment. I'm sure there will be, not exactly how everything that happened, but
cool.
It's fun.
Reality TV. We love it. I actually do love reality TV. Alright, so how this episode's gonna work is we're going to be reacting to every single episode after we watch it. So right now, neither of us have seen anything. Of course, we know what happened in the season, but we haven't seen a single episode of Drive to Survive. We're going to put it on, and then we're going to come back and we're going to record our thoughts, give you our instant reactions. We're actually going to rate everything from 1 light, 2 lights out, and away we go. Which will be fun. And then, of course, whether you're listening to this or watching it on YouTube, we're going to have time codes and chapters. So if you listen to a specific episode, you want to jump and hear our thoughts about that, you'll be easily able to do that. And then, of course, we want to hear your thoughts. So, we want to hear your thoughts. So head over to @GridwalkShow on any social media channel. Tell us what you thought. Did you agree with our take on every episode? I think there's going to be a few based on the titles that Nicole and I are going to feel vastly different about. I think a few are going to make us cry, so we want to hear how they make you feel. Also, if you have found this video or this podcast because this is your first foray into F1, please stick around. We're not a tech podcast or an educational podcast, but we are just a fun group chat. Thank you, Parker. Thank you for agreeing. Parker is a part of our group chat. So we would love to have you. We'd love to have all new fans and anyone who's just excited about F1. Join us. Join Gridwalk. It'll be a lot of fun to have you.
I'm tired.
I'm physically tired, and I am also tired of Christian Horner not understanding what a budget is. But I didn't expect him to. So, this episode was exactly what I expected the cost cap episode to be.
Yeah. I appreciated seeing them set up the PR twist. It was cool to see the PR team before he went in the press conference, stand there and discuss how they're going to spin this. And then to go into Christian spending the rest of this episode spinning it. So that was great behind the scenes. I thought it was actually a great episode. But if you listened to our 2023 season preview, where we set goals for all the teams that we wanted them to fulfill, my goal for Red Bull was can you go a season without cheating? And Christian is really good at trying to spin this. And I get it. But $500,000 is a lot of money. And they cheated. And they cheated in the year where they stole Lewis's championship. And they just, like, I'm sorry, like, no positive DTS PR is going to convince me that, like, breaking the rules is not breaking the rules. Like, it's the middle of the night, I'm tired. Like,
and as someone who's not necessarily a big Zach Brown fan at the moment, like, being reminded of his, like, the letter
shout out to that man.
I was like, you know what, like, yeah, you did not follow rules, and that's cheating. Like, that's what it is. I also am reinvigorated, or like my anger is reinvigorated at the frustration of like that this process takes like almost a year to like verify. And as you know, Stefano's recently been talking about if like if this is going to be a rule, like it needs to happen sooner rather than later. And like, hey, maybe like Max had already been the driver champion like for 2022, and then we were finding out about cost cap after like of 2021
from 21. Yeah,
like it makes no sense. I don't understand how it takes that long. It just seems so incredibly inefficient, and like it makes the rules seem kind of like pointless because it just takes so long. It just is such an unbelievably inefficient process. And then when Christian says, you know, it's incredible that the FIA just left like no room for like interpretation, and I'm like, that's so wild, because that's like, I feel like what the FIA consistently does is how like they choose to interpret something, but like a budget's like you did or you didn't break a cost cap. Like it's not like interpretation of, oh, $400,000 is not a lot. One, it is, and two, it's like you went over, you didn't go over. It's not like interpretation.
And I could sit here and talk about the financial regulations till I'm blue in the face, because I don't really care to do that again. This episode remade me angry. Put me back in that place where I was angry. Again. Give Lewis his championship. This is just stupid now. And I just fundamentally, like, my whole thing with the cost cap is it going to matter or not? Because it can't sometimes matter and sometimes not matter. And I thought they did a decent job in this episode of setting the stakes of, if Red Bull breaks the cost cap and is not punished severely, then there is no incentive for the other teams to not start breaking it. So there is no point in having a cost cap that you are not going to enforce. And Red Bull got a fine, which they can pay because they had to go way more than that in their spending down to get to the budget cap. And they got some wind tunnel testing time that we're all that at the earliest might affect their 2024 car. So the communication that we have now as F1 fans is that the cost cap, you can break the cost cap, and then they'll punish you in 3 years. So basically, we don't have a cost cap. Like, why would you stick to it if you just want to win? It's just, I'm re-frustrated. It was a great episode, though. I loved all the behind the scenes, and I loved seeing them like all finagle and get angry.
Yeah. It wasn't my favorite interviews, and hearing certain things that get me very angry, but like kind of seeing Christian being pulled in like a bunch of different meeting directions, and meeting with PR and meeting with Muhammad, and like just all these types of things that knew was happening. And also adds a layer of, I don't know how many times I'll just like, accidentally drop that we went to Coda, but like that this was happening when we're there. Like, it was just really wild. It was a wild weekend for so many things to just like overlap and take place at the exact same time. So it was definitely really cool to see that, because it was just so much speculation in my head of like, when did all this happen? Who broke the news to this, and how does Red Bull talk about this? So that was definitely interesting to see.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, like, so, and I think this confirmed it. I get tired. They had decided the punishment like around the time of Coda, and we're going to announce it there, but then held it because Dietrich's died. And then like we found out the next week, like after Coda, but at this point, like we knew, but it was a matter of like, what is the punishment going to be? Like, the PR around this, like, I'm going to say words I don't like. more than one thing can be true. And Red Bull is right that the PR of the whole thing was not handled well by the FIA. Like, it was leaked, and then it did become a whole, like, he said, she said, finagle in the press of what the punishment was. Then we actually found out what the breach was, and then weeks later found out what the punishment was. So it was handled really poorly in the press, and so much of the spin that Red Bull got to do, like, it's funny that Christian was complaining about it, because they got to do all this spin because it was handled poorly by the FIA and the press. But
yeah, again, it's just a group of high schoolers. It's a giant circus. Everyone's gossiping. No secrets are secrets, because someone will find out something, and then it's a 10,000 square foot paddock and word gets around. There's just always someone talking about something, and there's no secrets.
Christian's wrong, though. He said all they'll remember is that we won the championships. Like, 2021 at the very least is going to have 17 asterisks on it. People don't forget. People still talk about Spygate, Crashgate, like this is ingrained in F1. That champion, at least the 2021 championship, will always have multiple asterisks next to it, and you won't be able to bring it up without someone talking about Abu Dhabi, about the cost cap scandal. So they can keep saying that, but it's not going away. 4 lights, though. It was a great behind the scenes.
I agree. 4 lights, but I'm frustrated. But we got one more, and then that's it. Yeah.
I hope that everyone watching this is having more fun than we are.
We're tired. This is a lot of screen fatigue at this point, and reliving a lot of emotional moments. We did it.
Do you know what this means, Nicole?
It means we're done. It means we get to go to sleep soon.
Well, yes. This means that the 2023 season is officially here.
Yeah.
Testing day 3 has started.
Lights out in 8 days and 7 hours. That's crazy.
No, I'm already getting notifications that cars are on track for testing day 3. We made it through Drive to Survive Season 5. Before we talk big picture, I'm sure people just saw a montage of you reacting to the, like, thank you, Daniel montage. So do you want to...
No, you were recording.
Yeah, do you want to start there? Like, are you okay?
Yeah, I started to tear up, but then there was like 3 nutsack jokes, and I couldn't not. Then Nico Hulkenberg, that whole thing he does. I wish there was a Pierre Gasly of that. It was a beautiful, like, montage of beautiful moments. And I'm just shocked that we didn't get a reserve driver Red Bull, like, full circle thing.
He'll be in
which
the show.
I also get, because, like, reserve drivers, whatever. But, like, I just am shocked DTS didn't, like, lean into, like, the full circle piece. I also felt like Go ahead.
When they faded to start the montage and they started with him in the Red Bull gear, I thought they were going to end with him back in the Red Bull gear. So I was just as surprised as you.
Yeah. Didn't really, I don't know. The last episode kind of just felt like very short, and like, I guess we'll just end this with Abu Dhabi and we'll just show you who got 4th in the constructor, which is like, I guess the only thing that they had to like wrap up besides like Daniel's retirement, which I still don't necessarily feel like they did. This is also not acknowledging everything they left out of the last race, but it just felt like such a very short episode compared to everything else, that there wasn't like really a story. It was just like, here's the race, and that's it.
Yeah, they definitely tried to lean into the will Mercedes get P2 thing, and I think, again, it was just one of those, like, we knew they didn't. We
knew what was going to happen.
Yeah. I did, look, if you got to this point in listening to us react to all these episodes, you've heard that, like, we haven't loved the last couple of episodes so much. But this one, for some reason, like, I mean, it was probably the way they edited it, like, really got me juiced up for the 2023 season. I was like, oh my gosh, cars are going to be on track again. Like, and I think it's because they weren't trying to like force a storyline into the race. I just felt like I was like watching the highlights of the race, and that just got me really pumped. I just like, and also simultaneously I was like on my phone getting notifications about like what's going on day 3 of testing. So it was just like a lot at once, and I was just feeling like, so I agree with everything you're saying, but I was just like, racing soon.
Yeah, I guess it was like this particular, like you were saying, it felt like race highlights. Like this didn't feel like there were like fabricated stakes or like fabricated battles on the track. Like it very much was a Alpine McLaren like fighting for P4, and like, oh my God, like can Mercedes, like will it happen with Mercedes and Ferrari? And like of course we knew what was happening, but it was such a pure, straightforward storyline of what was on track, and
Right.
that's what they gave us.
Right. Which I don't think every episode should be, because I like the reality TV drama of it as a supplement to our F1 experience. But for when we went into it and we knew it was going to only be about a 30-minute episode, I was like, oh, this is going to be like a get you hyped for the season episode. And I feel like we got that. I was like, I feel sufficiently hyped for 2023 now.
Yeah. It was a great end of like next season. It's like, here's Vegas. And then it was like, here's all the new faces, which is very exciting. Yes. So yes, very excited for Bahrain, very excited for Cars on Track. I'm just also excited for the actual season so that we get 10,000 more storylines than we did in Drive to Survive. Yeah. And then one year we do this for the 2023 season. So, but excited for the actual season, getting lots of details, getting lots of stories, knowing everything that's going up and down the grid. I'm very hyped and ready for it to begin.
Yeah. It's our first season as a podcast too. So I'm excited to do this, not just as a fan, but like getting to talk to you about this every week outside of just us screaming in voice notes to each other.
This is professional voice notes.
Right. Okay, so to put a bow on our DTS reaction pod, how would you rate the final episode in our rating scale?
I'll give it 5 lights. It wasn't like a lights out that like it blew my mind, but I think that's also just, this season was the outcome, quote unquote, of the season, aka Red Bull, happened so early that like what was DTS going to do with the last race? So I think, but it was great. It was great race highlights. It was very pure for what it was. I was prepared for like be sobbing at the Daniel montage, and I went from tearing to laughing. And I think that's very appropriate. So I'll give it 5 lights, but now my feeling for the 2023 season is lights out, and away we go.
Yes. I think I gave it a 4. I give it 4, but for similar reasons, but I'm just like less enthusiastic about this one. Agree that 2023 is lights out and away we go. I also think we need to bring up before we wrap this episode Toto's continued commitment to put the W13 in their lobby to remind everyone about like overcoming struggles. And I just like you know what? Like Toto is Toto, and I just adore it. And like if
he's the purest. He does not pretend to be anything that he's not. And that is like the most Toto, like serious thing ever. But when I heard it's like, yeah, the W13 is going to be in our lobby, so we never forget. I was like, I don't think anyone's going to forget, but I'm glad that it's going to be like walks into Mercedes. Like, here is the thing that we are the least proud of. We're never going to forget it, and we're going to be better for it. And that's why the W14 is black and can fly.
Oh my God. It better be able to fly. Entire season as a whole, where would you rank it?
I'll give it a 4. Like I wasn't as, I don't know, I think there was just a little bit more of emotional sadness this year when, usually even when Daniel Ricciardo is having like a tough season, him winning one race adds like a really exciting episode. So there was just a lot of like downers this year when, I'm not necessarily like rooting for Red Bull to be winning a race. And even I feel like we didn't get like enough focus on like the celebrating of Carlos's race win. So a lot of the drivers that I was excited about winning races either did not win a race or DTS did not give it the like pizzazz and attention I felt like it deserved. So there were pieces I enjoyed. Not my favorite season of Drive to Survive, but that's okay.
Yeah.
So I'll give it 4 lights.
I think I'm at 3 lights. I agree with everything you said. I just didn't get enough ridiculous behind the scenes fabricated, like, and they did it too soon. Like, I need more like pre-shot Gunther and Mattia in a car. I need Otmar with his beet juice. Like, all of that is what Drive to Survive is to me. Like, I want to see these people in fabricated situations that are sort of their day-to-day life, but not really their day-to-day life, because it's shot for Netflix.
Right.
So I think if they did like a couple of more of those types of things. Plus, it was just too much Red Bull PR. Like, we know Max only agreed to come back if his team had some say. And I did kind of feel that in the, like this, if this was a full Red Bull season, because it was on track, like, I just felt like it was a kind of a boring way to go about it.
Yeah, I guess I kind of see
that.
I kind of feel like DTS gives Haas and Red Bull kind of like, obviously we know that like Red Bull has been given like some kind of additional roles and controls this year of getting to view things aside, and you know, Max particular, like what he wants in it and what he doesn't when it comes to him. But when it comes to the beginning of Drive to Survive, like the foundation of it was Red Bull let them film, and so did Haas. So I think that we'll always get like a ton from them, but particularly since Red Bull had the year that they did, Drive to Survive was probably like amped and ready to be like, here it is, like our pride and joy, Haas and Red Bull.
And I was totally, like, I'm totally down to see a ton of those teams. But what makes it so interesting is that it's not censored. Like, I want to see raw Red Bull and raw Max. And, like, there was Max's team having control over that made Max such a boring character. And I can say a lot of things about Max, but I do not think he is a boring character. And the Checo episode was boring. And like the cost cap episode wasn't boring. I'll give them that. But it was, so there's, my issue isn't the volume of Red Bull. My issue is that a very entertaining, dramatic, exciting team somehow came across mostly kind of boring. And I think like that's why you don't want your documentary subjects to have too much say over how they're viewed, because it's not as exciting.
And we saw the progression of his Max's flat brim to regular hat.
True.
That we did see.
That was an important PR shift.
It was. Yeah. And I hope he continues it. And because and the flat brim hats. Yeah. But it's important, but it's not important.
Oh, I totally forgot to mention that I think the greatest edit, like Drive to Survive transitions are fantastic. And like the edit of asking Charles how the season went and it cutting to him screaming no as he crashes into the wall in France was unreal. Like, that was a masterpiece.
Yeah, because they definitely, I did expect to see more Ferrari hiccups. Not that we didn't get a lot, but I guess like particularly I feel like every week we were seeing something with Charles and we just did not get as much of that as I expected. But yes, they really knocked the montages out of the park on that one. And I don't wish Charles sadness and failure and, you know, but the screaming of no on the radio was is still one of the most iconic sounds I have ever heard in Formula One.
They cut right before the heavy breathing. But yeah, I do. Like, my final thought on the season is that DTS really relies on its characters. And that's why, like, Gunther is so big and Daniel is so big, is because they're willing to be characters on the show and lean into everything that means. And it did feel really great to have, like, Mercedes, but not just Mercedes, but, like, Lewis back. Like, it's been a while since we got this much Lewis, and he is incredibly charismatic outside of the fact that we both just are big fans. And his presence really was felt in a positive way. But then I also thought having both the Ferrari drivers had, like, I wish we spent more time with them. I didn't feel like we spent a lot of time with them, and they're really good characters in the show.
Yeah, I felt like we were going to get more at the Ferrari principal episode. Like, there's so many things that I guess maybe that they plan that they'll, like, start season 6 of Drive to Survive with, but, like, did they only get, like, the speculation tweet about Mattia? Like, we ended and they didn't, they said to Fred, you look good in red. Right. And, like, got it, right. Yeah,
which was vague. Yeah. I think my issue is Ferrari has two of the most charismatic drivers, and I just don't think DTS used them as well as they did in past seasons. So, like, going back to, like, why is this a 3? Well, we didn't spend time, like, with Charles, like, being a person. We saw a lot of him in the car and a lot of Ferrari messing up, but not a lot of, like, his actual interviews. And then same with Carlos. Like, Carlos normally has great DTS episodes with him as a person and adding context. And instead, again, we got a lot of him in the car and not a lot of outside him being a person.
And even with that, there was a lot of drivers that we just didn't hear from, which we expect. You know, we're not going to get content from everyone. Yeah. But when we're, like, feeling like we didn't get enough content from the drivers that we did see, it's very interesting after watching
8 hours of television.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's because they spent so much time with Red Bull, and they were not super entertaining. So we got an entire episode of Checo where I felt like we didn't, like he wasn't a character, right? Like, he was just there. And then we spent a lot of time with Max, and he wasn't a character. He was just there. And, I mean, there was good team principle stuff.
I was going to say, Christian was there, and he was a character. Yes. And Toto was there, and he was a character.
And Otmar and Zach played their characters.
Yeah.
Gunther.
Yeah, I mean, the most interesting part of this whole thing, which doesn't surprise me, was the silly season, Oscar, all of it. If you asked me this in August, I would have said, yeah, that's going to be the most, if they cover it on DTS, that will be the most interesting part. And I think it was.
And those two episodes were the highlight. They both got a lights out from one of us. I also, in hindsight going back, I thought the porpoising Mercedes episode was really, really good. Mm-hmm. Because they showed genuine struggles from the team. I think that was good. There was a lot of good. I think the Mick episode, while I didn't love the characterization, like, was a decent episode. Like, at least there was some struggle and some...
They also, yeah, and I don't like that they didn't, like, say that he went to Mercedes. Like, I understand that they then brought, like, again, coming from someone who's, like, not fully familiar with, like, what's going on in the sport, that whole end would be so unbelievably confusing. Because, like, then Nico comes back, and the whole, like, suck my whatever, like, which we get, because it's an iconic moment, and... great reference and callback, even though they showed it this season. Like, there was a lot of things that if you did not know what was going on in Formula One, you'd be like, I don't know who these people are. Who are these new faces? Who's this one guy in blue? And they're saying, welcome back. Why are they asking this one guy if he looks good in red? And everyone's, like, chuckling. And, like, where's Daniel? What happened to Mick? Like,
yeah, it was definitely... This was the first season where I felt like you actually needed to know other things. Whereas I felt seasons 1 through 4 did such a good job of, you just need to know what we're showing you and everything. Mm-hmm. Which is why it is the entry drug into the sport. Like, so it was just, it was a weird season. I really felt like it was a weird season.
It was weird.
Yeah.
Definitely weird.
I'm hoping, because even though we're sitting here, like, a little disappointed with this season. Like, I love everything that Drive to Survive has done for this sport, and I'm excited. I will be excited to watch next season. I want more. But I do hope that they reflect on this season and give us more next season that's like supplemental to the on track stuff and like
All depends on what storylines this season has in store.
You know the one driver they did a good job setting up? They did a really good job setting up Nick DeVries for next season.
And Yuki, I think. I think AlphaTauri, they set up AlphaTauri like really great for next season.
Right? Yeah. I think
Better than Alpine, better than McLaren. Like, I'm more intrigued about what's going to happen with AlphaTauri.
Yeah. I thought they did a decent job actually setting up Fernando Alonso.
Yeah, but we didn't get enough like Aston Martin, which we knew. It just felt weird that it was a very one-sided of like, yeah, Aston Martin talked to me, and we got like one quick like interview statement from Lawrence Stroll.
Right.
It just was, yeah, I felt like there should have been more of like that move over, but maybe next season. I don't know.
I will circle back to something we said I said at the beginning, is that if the only involvement of Zhou was to applaud George Russell for like getting out of his car, I was going to be upset, and I am, because that's the only Zhou Guanyu we got, was they were like, sit in this chair and talk about how great George Russell is, and like, I don't like that.
You know, that was gross. And again, waste of his like charisma as a person.
Yeah. I think we got no Alfa Romeo, except we had to watch the Zhou Guanyu crash 4 times, I'm pretty sure. We got 0 Williams.
We had like Alex for like a second. It was like you could tell that Alex was there for an interview, and they used like him for I don't even remember what it was on. But I was like, oh, Alex.
Yeah. And I don't believe Drive to Survive has to cover every team. Like, I don't know what they would talk about besides the Nick DeVries thing that they did talk about for Williams. And then, well, I mean, that being said, like, it was Alex's first season with the team. And that was exciting. Like, Alex's comeback was a big deal and was exciting and would have been worthy of an episode, in my opinion. But
Except they didn't have a good story. Like, they ended last.
But
they never scored more than 2 points in a race.
They could have done the early season race where Alex did the like incredibly long stint where he didn't pit until like the second to last lap of the race.
Yeah. I mean, there was
They
a
made
whole
a
lot
big
of
deal out of Yuki getting P10.
Yeah, but that's because people, they know that the demographic love Pierre and Yuki.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, when you're like, oh, what would they talk about Williams? I'm like, I don't know, but they like made an entire episode about Yuki. So, oh, there was a Parker. Oh, Parker is always so confused whenever we're recording because he's
so
like
tired. He's like, can we please go? No, look this way. Look this way. Look this. Look
oh,
over
his little bandana is so cute.
Look this way.
Oh.
I know we're tired.
You're only listening to us. Just know you can go to our YouTube channel and there's a puppy. And his name is Parker after Peter Parker.
But that's season 5 of Drive to Survive. Yeah. We did the thing.
So
this is not our, as we had said at the beginning, our regularly scheduled programming. Although we will be back with our regularly scheduled programming this Thursday of our regular show. So make sure you are following if you're not already. Subscribe where you can. Follow, turn on auto downloads, especially if you're listening on Apple Podcast. We have one more week. We're trying to get 5 reviews. So make sure you let us know what you love, what you think we could do better. We're definitely trying to improve the show in best ways that you can. And make sure to follow us on every social media platform at Gridwalk Show. Let us know what you thought about Drive to Survive. What was your favorite episode? Give us your lights out rating. And yeah, we'll see you on Thursday.
For a race preview. Because it's, Nicole, it's the 2023 season. It's here.
2023 season.
Okay, bed. We have to go to bed now.
Please, please.